Hello, and welcome to this month's Safety Minute. The other night I was out with my wife and two of our friends for dinner, and our server, he had a brace on his wrist. So I was curious, because I know a lot about soft tissue injuries, and I asked him, was this a work-related injury? And he said it was. And then I followed it up and asked, well, are you seeking workers' compensation? And he said no. And when he said that, it affected me because this is not the first time I have ever heard of a worker who did not want to seek workers' compensation for an injury that he went and bought a brace for and was actively protecting himself from the pain of what his injury is causing him. So I asked him why. And he had two reasons. The first reason was is he was afraid his employer would have backlash on him if he went and sought workers' compensation. And the second reason was that he didn't see the need to treat an injury he was already buying a brace to protect himself from. And it really made me realize that we should have a safety minute about workers' compensation. The biggest issue with workers' compensation is that throughout history, we didn't have it. It goes back to our very first written laws with the Code of Ur-Nammu, 2100 BCE, where in this code they had four laws that really covered compensation for injury. And those laws were, if a man knocks out the eye of another man, he shall weigh out half a mina of silver. If a man cuts off another man's foot, he has to pay 10 shekels. If someone severs the nose of another man with a copper knife, he must pay 2/3 of a mina of silver. If a man knocks out a tooth of another man, he shall pay 2 shekels of silver. This not only covered if you got hurt outside of work, but also if you got hurt at work. What happens if you lose a hand or a finger? What happens if you are disabled or you broke a bone? None of those things are covered. And this also set the basis for further laws to happen, like the Code of Lipit Ishtar or the Code of Hammurabi, which also mimicked the same kind of compensation for injury law. And things got even worse for the workers. As in the industrial age, British law adopted 3 defenses employers could use to remove all liability from an incident that happened at work. And those 3 defenses were contributory negligence, which basically the employer had to prove that the employee just had a small hand in their incident and the employer wasn't responsible at all. The next one was the fellow servant rule. And this is if another employee caused an incident that hurt an employee, the employer wasn't responsible at all. And then the last one was the assumption of risk. And this law says that the moment you were hired, you assumed all the risks that came with the job. They expected you to already understand all the risks you were going to face the first time you were hired. It wasn't until 1884 in Germany that we really started to see any kind of workers' compensation laws that would really protect workers and create a no-fault insurance system. This was followed up in 1897 in Britain and then amended again in 1906. And it wasn't until 1911 when Wisconsin was the first state in North America to bring in workers' compensation. And this slowly then came into Canada and went around the world. And this is why it bothers me so much when I hear about people who have a workplace injury and don't seek compensation. Getting hurt and dying throughout history has been a part of the job because we didn't have safety legislation to protect us. And if you got hurt or if you died, it also meant that you suffered alone. You didn't get medical help, you didn't get rehabilitation, you didn't get medication, and you didn't get lost wages. Instead, you got forgotten and left behind. And workers' compensation is a protection that we have won through suffering of countless other workers. It's a protection that's there to help you get better. It's a protection that's there to cover everything you work so hard for as you get better. And it's a protection that was designed for you and your family so that you can continue to have a long and prosperous life, even if you do suffer a workplace injury. So use these protections. Don't make up excuses about why you don't want to seek it or it's not a bad injury or you're afraid of what your employer might do. Grab onto these protections because they will not only benefit you now, but well into the future. I hope you enjoyed this safety. If you want more videos like this, please hit the subscribe button. If you want to bring me out to your workplace, go to spencerspeaks.ca. And until the next safety minute, stay safe.